Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with the team as we continue to tell your story. Now, many fathers are claiming that the legal system is failing them when it comes to custody and access to their children.
The law grants equal access to both parents unless otherwise stated, but some fathers say that this does not often happen and the courts don't assist them. As our reporter Taresh Hareepershad has more.
According to the Children's Act of South Africa, both parents should have equal access to their children in order to aid in the best development of the child. But according to the many men we've spoken to, they say they've been unfairly treated by the courts of South Africa. Joining me now to get more clarity on this is Mr. Shozi from the KwaZulu-Natal Men's Forum. We have a situation where men are saying they're being unfairly treated when trying to access their children. From your perception, what is the situation like?
The information that we have is correct. When we engage with men around the KwaZulu-Natal and beyond the borders of KwaZulu-Natal, there's the impression that men have given us. They've actually said that the system, although the laws allow them to have access to their children, but in practice that does not happen, because in most cases mothers of the children don't allow them to have access or enough access to their children, and sometimes they use that to actually discriminate them from actually access their own children.
What then becomes the appeal to ensure that the legal system does provide a fair balance in terms of access to the children for the fathers?
As I've said, the issue is practice. One of the critical matters is to educate our own system. One of the issues is around patriarchal attitudes of people, that women are supposed to raise children, men are supposed to work, and when in practice we'll find then that men are not allowed to have access to their own children. What is important though is that as much as we have laws that allow that, the Constitution allows that, they have equal participation of both parents to ensure that their children are developed. But in practice that does not happen. Therefore we need to educate the society, our families about some of this. The judiciary itself, the magistrates for example, they are many progressive magistrates and judges, but there are some instances where you find then that the judgments are always tilted against a man, and we need to actually ensure that gender sensitization workshops are actually provided across the board to ensure that the criminal justice system is associative to men as well.
Help us understand then the myths that exist, the preconceived gender roles where if a man were to report abuse, it's not taken as seriously. Or if a man wishes to access his child, that is not being treated as fairly as you'd like.
One of the most important issues is around reporting domestic violence. Around the 90s and mid 2000s, people were laughing at men when they come to report this. I think due to the advocacy around this, that has actually stopped. But in practice, we still find then that the people always drag, more especially the police, when a man has actually come to actually report some of these cases. We know that the police has its own men's sector, it has its own men's, women's programs to actually assist them to actually deal with some of those things. But we must know that people who implement the criminal justice system, they come from our own communities and they will have their own perceptions when it comes to this. And the men, they are actually affected negatively by the implementation of some of these policies.
And that was Mr. Shozi from the KwaZulu-Natal Men's Forum, helping us understand the plight of men when it comes to accessing family law.